Welcome to the True Mind Shifters channel. In this channel, we share true stories of our own lives to help you overcome fear, shame, and guilt. If you find this topic interesting, please like, subscribe, and share with others to amplify the goodness of this channel.
We're continuing the series of healing. Eva and I started talking about it last month, and we're continuing into the August because we believe that healing has three parts: soul, body, and mind. We believe that anything that happens to us is impacted through our soul. Today, we are also having our co-host, Hope, and we will be talking about body and why it is important to heal our body as well. What do you think, Hope?
Yeah, everything is connected. All three of those are connected together. You can't separate one from the other. If something happens to you mentally, it affects your body, it affects your soul. If something happens to your body, it affects you mentally. I mean, that's absolutely, I don't think anybody can argue with that. So you got to take care of all three.
As a Army veteran, right? Someone who had been and obviously exceptionally fit all your life due to the professional reasons and probably your personal reasons. How do you approach the situation when you felt down, you felt stressed? Would that impact your ability to keep your body healthy?
Absolutely. But I think that's when you got to concentrate on that to do those kinds of things. I can remember there's times in my life where things were rough and things weren't going the way I wanted it to, and one of the first things I do is I just go for a long run, just to clear my mind, get my body working again. And I used to love to run. I don't run anymore, but I used to love to run a lot. And people would ask me, well, when I'd say I love to run, they say, well, why do you love? I said, because that's my time to use my body, but also my mind. I can either, I use that time to eat one of two ways, either to not think about anything or to think about a problem that I had and how I was going to work through it. But I think the physical piece is absolutely important. And I think that it changes throughout your life. I played baseball, basketball, football in high school, baseball in college. So as an athlete, so physical fitness was always something I understood and wanted to be physically fit. And then I joined the Army. And of course, there you don't have a choice every morning, 5 o'clock, ready to go to PT in the morning, physical training. Yeah. And now, at 61, I don't run anymore. I'm still active. And I think that what you do to heal your body and to bring that piece of that equation in will change throughout your life. And that's okay. You got to figure out what's working for you at the moment that you're there.
Have you met anyone men who would actually, in their emotional disbalance, or after they went to, I don't know how you call it, not a journey, but the operation, right? Or whatever you call it. I'm sorry, I don't know that. Would turn to actually food or drink or something like that. And have you ever had an opportunity to discuss it with people? Why it's happening? What is the motivator? How do they feel after? I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah, I think,
from men's perspective.
I've seen people who the body was affected by the stress they were under, and the body just shut down basically. They allowed so much of the stress to take over so much that it just they stopped eating, they stopped drinking, they just laid there. And then I've seen other people who took that stress and used it, because I think stress is useful. I think we all need stress, to a point. But they use that to motivate themselves to physically do what they had to do. And you see that you know, you see that the Medal of Honor winners, whatever, you know, they're obviously under stress, but they use that stress for good. Okay, how can I alleviate this stress? And they use their physical piece to do that. And I think that's important. That's why they're so connected. I know the three of them are so connected that you got to understand that they're connected. And when one thing is causing a problem, it's usually affecting something else. And unless you know that they're connected, you don't even know what it is that's causing the problem.
What about those people that actually, I'm more referring to actually people that, unfortunately, in the time of stress, become destructive. Like, for example, me, I realized all my life that during the time of stress, I was super destructive to my body. And that would be in the sense of smoking, long time ago, drinking wine excessively, or food.
Mm-hmm.
I believe with it now, where I'm right now, I absolutely understand that all those three things are the being triggered by an emotion issues, right? I absolutely believe that. I believe that all of us who are overweight or not in a healthy state physically, we all use food, alcohol as a comfort to supplement actually dealing and resolving emotional and psychological issues.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if it's to supplement the healing. I think it's just to deaden. A lot of people use it just to forget about what it is that's causing the problem. Some people, it might be the healing piece of it, but I see a lot of people who just they use alcohol, they use food, they use whatever every time they get stressed. You know, they hear stress eating or stress drinking and again, I think that the destruction, because that is a destructive behavior for a person, and it's because they don't understand that stress is a part of life. I mean, I don't care who you are, what you do, whether you're a soldier or you work in an office, it doesn't matter. You're going to have stress, and you got to learn how to deal with that in your mind, in your soul, in your body. You got to learn how to bring that stress down. And I know Eva and I talked about, when we first met, we were talking about stress and how she was coming up with a program to help people figure out when they became stressful with some things, you know, triggers that when you reach these are some things you can do to bring that down. And I think that, again, you got to figure that out as an individual, where that stress level then becomes too much. Because again, we all have stress every day. That's just a fact of life. But at some point, it gets to the point where you got to do something to bring that stress down a little bit. And you got to figure out what that is, what level that is for you, and then figure out what it is that works for you to bring that level down to a healthy level.
Eva, in your opinion, how can we help people and ourselves? What can we share with people so they can utilize those tools to resolve stress, anxiety, without turning to food, drinks, drugs, whatnot?
So in order to answer that, I can only share from my personal experience. And like Oak, I was extremely athletic when I was younger. However, I also have a couple of disorders, one of which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is it affects your metabolism. Some people refer to it, not saying that this is the medical term, but diabetes of the ovaries, where you become highly insulin resistant. And it changed how I metabolized food. And so I wasn't ever a person who necessarily went to food or different activities when I would be stressed, I was very emotional. I just let my feelings out, which kind of helped. And then later I learned more about how to calm myself, meditation,
Yeah.
how to lower my blood pressure, how to stop myself from being like a firecracker with emotion, where I would react and then create things that made my stressful situations even worse, right? So I've been on a journey of that, and I've got a little fight in me, like I think most people do. So I didn't necessarily have physical well-being become a challenge for me, because I was so active until after I had a family. And my physical well-being became very much an afterthought, especially when I had challenges in my marriage, overwhelmed by how much volume of work I did in the home by myself, without knowing how to ask for help or say I need help. And so this has been a struggle for me as I've gotten older, gained weight, became less active during COVID, drank a lot of wine. As we're all, I think, trying to figure out, we got through COVID, okay, many of us, and now how do we put all this stuff back together? And my realization is, we're in a state of reacting. Okay. And what Oak said, yes, stress happens, overwhelm happened. I feel like a tsunami took out that, physically active Eva.
Yeah.
And since then, it's like, okay, I'm scrambling, looking, well, how do I change what I eat? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I think the biggest thing for me right now, because I have not conquered this yet, but I am on a path to do so. I am on a path to heal my body. And what it means is I need to become an observer, and I need to ask myself. So for example, I'd really like to lose weight. Okay, I want to lose weight, but what am I choosing in my day-to-day life,
Yep.
moment to moment, to help me actually lose weight?
That's
That is
right.
a decision. It is not a desire. And
That's
I
right.
think that that's where I'm at right now. And, we've talked about this, Oak, with you before, in terms of routines and discipline. And one of the things that I loved about your book on leadership, right? You can apply concepts of leadership to your own life and becoming a
You
leader
have
for
to.
yourself, right?
You
Right.
have to.
It's yourself
That's where it
first.
starts. That's where it
It's
starts.
yourself first.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head. There's that old saying that you don't get to choose who you are, you choose your habits, and they'll choose who you're going to be. And I think that that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, when we all get into bad habits, whether it's drinking, smoking, eating more, not working out, not doing whatever. I mean, we all fall into this routine of habits, and it takes a conscious decision to break those things.
Yeah.
And at some point, you just gotta, like you said, you can't just say, I wish I could. You got to say, I'm going to. And then you got to come up with, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And actually come with a plan
Yeah.
that you're going to use. Because if you don't, it's never going to happen.
Right.
You,
And
you could say you want to do it all you want, but if you
yeah,
don't come up with an actual plan, okay, this is what I'm doing now, then it's not going to
yeah.
happen.
And decide, dig deep into who you are and
Yeah.
understand, because I'll tell myself all sorts of nice things about, and I'll write plans and checklists and go to ChatGPT, write a menu for PCOS friendly menu for a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 30 seconds later I have a full-blown menu. Does that change my habits?
No.
No, and so this is something I'm currently sitting in right now, is looking and being honest with myself about, I want something, but am I deciding? And so I did listen to some nice podcasts, also female issues, later issues, is just reality, is menopause. And that's also very, hormones and the lack of estrogen and the impact on a female's body is very real.
Sure it is.
However, we don't talk about it. We don't share information very easily or readily. Doctors may or may not, have awareness around how to truly help women with and through leading up to menopause and postmenopausal reality of our body. So me learning more about that, me learning more about what can I do? It's very unique to me because of the combination of things going on in my life. So it's something I need to choose, decide, and then follow through on. And I think I'm at a point where I'm ready to choose. But that's what I'm sitting with right now is like, okay, Eva, yeah, you want this. Who doesn't want to be thinner? Who doesn't want to be healthier? Who doesn't want to be blah, blah, blah? Do you decide yet? Is this a decision or is this still a desire?
Yeah, and that's really key, Eva. You know, that it's not going to happen until you're ready to make it happen. Because it's a decision, you know, and decisions have consequences. Sorry, as I put in my book, you know, every decision has a consequence, good or bad, and you got to get to the point where you're making decisions that give you good consequences.
Yes.
More times than not. No,
Yes.
we're never going to get to the point where every decision we make is going to give us good consequence. We're human. We all make mistakes, but you got to get to the point in your life where you've made a decision that you're going to make good decisions and think through what that decision that you're making is going to, what's the consequences that are going to happen. And once you get to that point, life gets a lot easier.
So sometimes we don't know what the decision is, or we don't know what the step is. And sometimes we don't know where to find the answer. And so randomly, I pray in some way, I put out to the universe, however you want to describe it. I need help.
Yeah.
I need something. And then you know what happens? It comes to me.
Yeah.
And so I got a podcast from a couple people. I've gotten a few other things that are helping me with the smallest of small steps, including this one podcast I just listened to that talked about when the alarm goes off, get up.
Oh, absolutely.
Let the first light you see be sunlight, not blue light.
Yeah.
Those two simple things, I'm like, okay, I get that. I can hold on to that. I can run with this. I can choose this. I'm deciding. And I did it this morning, right? And so like one little step, one little bit at a time.
And that's the key, because nobody's going to change overnight. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. Again, it's that routine inside of that routine that eventually makes it a habit that then you don't even have to think about it. It's, you know, it just happens because
let me throw the curveball for both of you sports people. I'm on the other side of the spectrum, right? So you've been sports people since you were little. I was not. Well, I was trying a little bit. So you both are sitting here talking about how much you love sports, how much you love feeling good about your strengths, right? And here comes me, who was super emotional, always, all my life. Like you said, okay, you have to decide. You know how many times I decided? You know how many times I decided and I started it? You know how many people I know who decided and who started it and actually succeeded? I'm part of them. And then, poof, life happens and you completely roll back to your old unhealthy habits. And you see yourself sitting in this corner, all blown up, physically, many pounds up, thinking about yourself as a complete loser, complete failure, right? And I have to tell you all, there's so many more people like me than like you who are strong, who love sports, who find redemption and energy. That's easy. Anyone who does that, they're like you, healthy, strong, you know, using sports all their life. And then there are people like me who've tried so many times, succeeded and then roll back, succeeded and then roll back. Right. And that huge ball of disappointment is growing and expanding.
But see, because look, I'm not perfect. I fail at things, but here's always been my philosophy, and I think that this is a philosophy that for the people that you're talking about, especially, is that it's not a failure until you give up. So if if you're doing something and all of a sudden you fall off the wagon and you're back to day one, okay, you're back to day one. But now day two, make sure you're back on that wagon and you're trying again. And you just got to keep trying. And we're all gonna fail, and we're all gonna do things that we don't like, and it's gonna have consequences. But then you just got, once you figure that out, then you gotta say, okay, now I'm starting again from day one. And you know, that's certainly, and I just go, I've got a lot of friends who are alcoholics, and they're exactly that way, you know. They'll be 10 years sober and then they'll have one drink. Now they're back to day one. But you know, the advice I always give them is, okay, so you're starting over, but you know you can do it because you've done it. So you're ahead of where you were when you started. You just got to make sure you realize that in your mind, that I've already done this once, I can do it again. That, I guess that's the only advice I could give to that, Marina.
To me, and it's an awesome advice. First of all, the reason why it's an amazing advice is because it removes the negative notion of failure.
That's right.
Okay. This is the critical component. People like me are constantly battling with the fact that they're a failure. And so they turn to comfort in whatever to mask that feeling and to get some dopamine, right? Which they think they're getting from whatever they think was good. And I have to also roll back and say, we're actually training our kids, and we were trained the same way since we were little. You fell, oh, here's the candy.
Yeah.
You
Horrible.
don't feel good today? Oh, here's a piece of cake for you to feel better. Yeah. Let's go to some brands, which I'm not going to say, that have toys with your food so you feel good. It's a psychological pattern. Here's what changed about me today, which I never, ever in my life thought would happen. As my son said, because he's my role model with this, right? I finally changed the relationship with food. I do not see food as something that needs to make me feel good, because without it, I'm not. I'm a foodie. I love good food. I am a great cook, right? But I no longer see food as a supplement to my well-being and making myself feel good.
Right. Absolutely.
I see food as an experience, as something we need to have in order to have energy and move on in life, as something that we can share with others.
Yeah.
And that is where I believe what we started with last month, and you were part of it all, a psychological change.
Yeah.
And I believe what you said is another component of it, right? If you rolled back, you haven't failed. You just need to start again, because that's what it is. It's life, right? You start something, it didn't work, you start again, you start again, and you start again. Until you change your relationship with food, until you change your relationship with alcohol, or whatever add-on you need to feel good about yourself, I changed my outlook at life. I have such an appreciation for every day of my life that I want to continue experiencing it with a full strength. And in order to do that, your body needs to have strength, muscles, bones, nervous system, skin. And you need to have strength to continue enjoying life. Yeah. This is where I landed today. Yeah. I'm yet to see the benefits, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And it's funny because our priest just kind of mentioned this yesterday during his homily. He was talking about food and how you need to look at it every time you have food and with friends, family, it's a special occasion. To make it so it isn't just about the food, it's about brothership, sistership, faith, all those things combined. And then you start changing the way you think about food. If it becomes a special occasion, it isn't just something I just go to the refrigerator and pull out something, and one of the things he said was, which I absolutely agree, is that every time you eat, you sit down and eat at a table. You don't just grab something out of the refrigerator and stand there and eat it. He said, that's how we get to the point where we are today. Make it a special occasion when you eat. And now there's a meaning behind it, not just that I'm eating something.
Absolutely. And absolutely. But I think we're going to continue this conversation. And I'm so grateful that you say that, because we are getting these nuggets right now, right? There's no failure. Because when people feel like failure, they don't want to do it again. The second thing, as I shared, right, changing a relationship by really just appreciating your life from a different perspective, from a perspective that is absolutely independent of your financial standing, your place of living, anything.
Your job, anything.
Your job. Who is around, as long as you have love around you, changing the perception of what life is. I absolutely know for a fact today that happy people are not overweight. Anytime, as a heavy person myself, I see a heavy person, I know for a fact that person has trauma. And they're supplementing that pain with food. Yeah. Nobody can tell me, oh, that's the way they were born. This is metabolic. I don't believe it anymore. As someone who's been heavy all my life, I don't believe it anymore.
Yeah,
it's trauma.
I think you hit the key. You get, it's about your outlook in life. We just had our 10-year-old and 7-year-old, 10-year-old granddaughter and 7-year-old grandson for the whole month of July. And, every once in a while they'd get in a bad mood. And my wife's favorite thing that she says to them and hits it right on the head: you can choose to be happy or you can choose to be sad. The choice is yours. You got to make that choice. Mm-hmm. Nobody else can make it for you. It is a choice. And you got to figure out what your outlook on life is going to be. Are you going to look at it in a positive manner, or are you going to look at it in a negative manner? And it will affect you one way or the other, whichever one you choose, I promise you.
Yes. And at a minimum, I'm hoping that people look at the stress that they have in their life and reflect, become observers, witness. What do you do? What do you turn to? Are you coping? Are you coping? Yeah. Or are you caring and then healing? Yeah. Because I think if we coping sounds, I don't know, it just seems like you're just getting through it.
Yes, that's it.
Caring and healing looks completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to your point, Eva, you gotta be that observer, but you gotta be honest with yourself. And
yes.
You gotta take emotions out of it.
Yes.
And that's the big thing about reflection. If you're going to reflect, then take a step back, take the emotion out of it, and be honest with yourself. And then you can come up with some answers that are actually going to help you. And until you do that, you're not going to.
Right. And forgive yourself, because you probably have done some things to yourself that have been destructive. Yep. And that was the best you could do in that moment. And to your point, it's not about failing. It's about, okay,
starting over.
Keep going. You keep pick it up, get up, and yeah. go a different direction, not direction in work.
It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. And to the point, right? And I'm going to talk about food or alcohol, because I've experienced both. whenever you overdo it because of the emotion and you're trying to mask the pain, you feel so crappy after. You do, no matter what. I don't believe anyone will say, oh, I feel so good. No,
I know,
that is
I
not true.
agree, I agree.
It's not. So when you know that you feel bad after, how does it resolve your problem?
Yeah. Yeah, and that just leads to the next day, you just do it again, and then you do it again.
Exactly.
And until you decide that you're gonna stop that cycle and actually make, not only decide it, but make some changes. You know, one of my favorite things is, things aren't gonna change unless you change something. I'm sorry, it's just gonna keep being the same way. So if you wanna change, you're gonna have to change something. And it starts with that decision, and then from there, you can figure out what you wanna do to change it.
And be honest with ourselves. We can
Mhm.
think that we're
Yep.
deciding when we really think we're really just wanting. Like, I
Yeah.
want it really bad. Okay.
Now, if
Is
you
it a
did, then you
decision?
change something.
Right, exactly. What's actually changed?
Yeah.
What's actually changed? Like you know, it has to be about changing your behavior based on that decision
Yeah.
again and again and again.
This is the topic that I actually want to continue. And I know that so many people could benefit from hearing us, Eva, talk more about it, especially from the position of someone who are part of that experience and seeing how it's going to evolve. Because I know for a fact we are going to be sharing more of this. And Oak, I wonder if you, next time we talk about it together, maybe you can share some of the thoughts of or findings, right? How can men can deal with issues, food, drinking, right?
Yeah, because
And be strong,
yeah, we
be
certainly have,
happy.
I mean, we have issues with it just like anybody else. I mean, certainly.
Mhm.
Probably alcohol more than food for the most part, but certainly food, if you look around, there's certainly
Yeah.
that issue as well. But alcohol is a big one that lots of men use to cope with, and certainly we can talk about that.
We are here to promote opportunities for all of us to learn together, to share love, to share experiences, to share knowledge. And our channel, we send you empowerment, support, and love.